Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you guys are all doing great. Thank you for taking the time to um, watching this presentation. Um, if you have any questions, do contact me via my website. The link to the website is at the bottom of each of the slides, at the bottom left-hand corner. Um, and without further ado, let's take it on. This is what I intend on discussing today. Um, I just want to keep it simple. Don't want to go into a lot of details. Just want to make sure that um, you guys understand the idea behind the ICOs. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, do drop me a line. View my contact details um, on my site, secondoid.com. So, what was the reason for why did the ICO start? So, in the past, before ICOs took center stage in 2017, um, when a organization had an idea or a group of people had an idea or they wanted to come up with a new product, um, they could only do so much on you know on a shoestring budget, so they had to go grow big, or by requesting money from one source or the other. The first source is usually the bank, so you would go to the bank and request a loan, and because you are a small organization, you don't have many contacts, you know people might know you don't have any assets, so getting a loan might be a bit difficult. The next avenue people would have taken is angel funding, which is you would go to individuals in your circle and request funding from them, or there are some professional angel funders who are into this thing, and if you know them, they could fund you as well. Um, angel funding usually um, doesn't provide you a lot of funds. They can go, um, an individual, if the individual is investing, they could go up to 100K. um, and if it's a group of angel investors, then they could go as high as $1 million, depending on the risk, how much they trust you. And they might have some contacts that they could leverage in supporting you going forward. um, Most of them are pretty hands off, not a lot hands on. They say, here's the money, you know take it, and depending on your agreement, you could say, you know I'll double it for you, or I'll give you a 25% return, or whatever, or less, whatever the agreement is, right? And angel funding does not stop at the professionals or the individuals. They could also be part of your family. So somebody in your family who wants to invest in you, if they think your idea is great, they could jump on board. Um, After the angel funding, the next level goes to the venture funding organizations, which are big companies. Their primary job is, funding in new startups, uh, but they are not interested as much in very early stage startups, unless there are compelling reasons. But they are a bit more organized than the angel funding crowd. Um, they would usually be able to fund a lot more money, um, starting $1 million plus. They do have a lot of contacts because this is their daily business. That's how they make money. So they have a lot of contacts, a lot of influence, and sometimes going with the right venture funding organization, it could be a good publicity for you as well. But the only caveat with venture capitalists is that when they fund you, they want some stake in your product as well. They might say, once you go live, we want to have X% or whatever out of your daily take. Um, and they also want a seat on your board. So they want to have some say in how you do things and what you deliver, and setting some timelines and schedules for the way things happen. So it could be a bit daunting working with venture capitalists. The next avenue people would have is, failing these two, would be crowdfunding, which has been prevalent since 2000. um, organizations like Donors Choose, which introduced in 2000, Global Giving, Artist Share, and as the model matured for the crowdfunding, those organizations start coming up, such as Kiva in 2005, Indiegogo in 2008, and Kickstarter 2009. Um, and most of you are pretty familiar with Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Um, so that's one way of getting funding for your organizations. I know Pebble was quite successful in acquiring funding through crowdfunding mechanisms. Um, so once all these funding avenues have been engaged, um, and you're operating at a certain level, you have some money coming in, you've proven yourself to the world that we are worth something, and we have a good product, and you have some people on board. Then the next thing you could do would be an initial public offering. So you would register with the SEC and float your shares on the stock market, and um, um, and then whatever, however many shares you wanted to issue, you could get um, funding for it. And then again, once you list it on the exchange, then it all depends on market, how they perceive your product and which way they're going. But the whole registering yourself on a stock exchange could be a bit daunting. A lot of paperwork, lots of legalese, and it's expensive as well. Um, and then in 2017, Ethereum came up with a platform, which said, we could make funding very easy for you, where you could issue your own tokens on this platform. So if you wanted to issue your own cryptocurrency, like, I don't like using the word cryptocurrency, but if you wanted to issue your own token, just like the big boys, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, those guys have done, you could use our platform to do that very easily, without a lot of programming and without a lot of knowledge. Um, and they made it pretty darn easy for people to do that. And as you know, when some things become easy to do, people find ways of utilizing them, and hence the whole ICO, initial coin offering, mechanism was born, where an organization could write a smart contract. They could have certain parameters where they could issue the ICO, and um, they would get the money, and things would be great. So moving along, now that we've started this going on into the ICO rat hole, um, um, what else are ICOs called? So ICOs, the way they started, were called initial coin offering, some people started calling them initial token offering. Then, as they got more creative, the marketing people joined into this um, activity. They start calling it a token generation event. So, if you're going live with your ICO at a certain date, you could say, "Hey, we're having a token generation event," and you can participate in it. And now there's new, as of late, um, um, there's a new kind of ICOs or something in between, is something called IBO, initial bounty offering. So before you ICO, some organizations are saying is that we'll offer some initial tokens to people to do some activities for us. So sharing, the this ICO on amongst your friends. You would get certain tokens from this ICO by subscribing to their Telegram channel. You would get so many by writing a little song on YouTube for this organization. You would do that. So there was one. That's one other way. You could um, start uh, offering free coins to people before your ICO goes live. Um, then Vitalik Buterin, in Q4 last year, he came up with he wrote a paper with somebody and proposed something called an interactive coin offering. Um, so what this was pretty much, as the name says, an interactive coin offering where buyers, when they want to purchase a token, um, they can set up some limits as to at what price point they want to go in, and if if they don't if they're not able to achieve that price point, then the money they put towards that ICO, it gets refunded. And after you have invested in the ICO, like your bid, you won the bid, you're in the ICO, then you have a certain period before by which you can withdraw your money. So it gives you an option of putting your money out. So um, but there's always a limit where after a certain period you cannot withdraw anything at all. Then there's also, within this, there would also be a people call them tranches, or you could call it a ramp, where buyers who purchase tokens early receive a certain discounted price, um, and they could set some maxims as well. So that was the interactive coin offering, and there's a paper out there on this as well. You can check it out on the internet. Then the other one, Vitalik came out um, in January, was um, DICO, so DAICO, um, which is a a form of a decentralized autonomous organization, um, and it is something that you would do on Ethereum platform, and the smart contract that a DICO would be created with um, provides two major roles. It governs the crowdfunding process, and it controls utilization of funds raised during the crowdfunding process. So you would have an interactive ICO happening, and once the ICO goes live, the organization who has um, issued the ICO, they don't get the funding right away. They don't get all the funds right away in their pocket. The money goes to a decentralized autonomous organization, DAO, which holds all the funds, and there's rules specified within the smart contracts that say at these stages or at these milestones, if you reach these milestones, you will get this much funding released to you. So this all has to be pre-programmed and predetermined before the ICO is issued, and then you would program it in Solidity if you're using the Ethereum platform, and um, and that's how a DAICO would work. Some of the platforms that are providing this capability to issue ICOs are Ethereum. This is where everything started. So Ethereum itself started as a result of um, people playing around with the Bitcoin blockchain, and every time they wanted to issue another cryptocurrency, they would have to fork the Bitcoin blockchain, do some changes to the algorithms, and then have their own ecosystem. They have their own wallets to support it, right? If it had to be mined or whatever, right? Whatever consensus algorithm they were going to use going forward. So Ethereum was born as a result of that very thing, right? Where instead of doing all that mumbo jumbo, right, you would just go to this particular platform, and there would be some standards based on the platform, and on this platform you could use a standard wallet, and as long as you were using that platform, you don't need to create another wallet for storing your tokens. Um, and then as Ethereum um, took ground in 2017. Um, New platforms came up like Neo, which used to be called AntShares. It's based out um, of, of China, and now they recently moved to um, Singapore. Um, and because as you're looking at the evolution of the platforms, Bitcoin blockchain, it had its limitations, and people said, we'll do Ethereum, which was one up from blockchain. Then people said, hey, Ethereum's doing all this good stuff, we will go with we'll make something better than Ethereum. So in came Neo, and Neo said Ethereum is using a a new language called Solidity, which is closer to JavaScript, but still there are nuances in terms of um, who can learn, and how much can be learned on this thing. So they said, we will make it easy for people. We'll support .NET, Java, Kotlin, Python, and soon they would also offer Go and JS. So what that means is, if you, because Python and Java and .NET are so mainstream, finding programmers is not going to be that difficult. So as long as you have your logic and your ideas, you could just use that. The next uh, evolution, not evolution, like in parallel, while as other platforms are thinking, making it bigger and better, was EOS. So EOS came up with it as well, and they said, we will do smart contracts in C++. And um, Stellar has always been there for ages, only that does not have a smart contract language. It is a very simple platform for ICOs, and I really like it. And it's not as complicated as the others. And this is some of the information I collected for some of them, and there's always others, right? There's those Tezos, which is going to go live sometime this year. There's Cardano, which is a blockchain for financial institutions. And there's Polkadot, which is a blockchain proxy. Pretty much, it's a blockchain which is going to allow you to move from one tokens from one blockchain to the other. So you could connect a version of Ethereum to the Bitcoin blockchain, or vice versa. So I call it a proxy pretty much. And then there's Dfinity, which is a internet computer. So You don't need to manage CPUs or disk or storage or anything like that. You throw your code into this black box and it takes care of it for you. And um, as you as you start using all these different um, platforms, they also have their own ways how the consensus is reached in each of these platforms. And again, because this is also new, the consensus algorithm are still being discussed and researched, and everybody says ours is the best. And as you can see, Ethereum uses proof of work. They're moving towards proof of stake soon. No one knows when. Neo and shares uses distributed Byzantine fault tolerance (DBFT). Um, EOS uses distributed proof of work, and Stellar has its own um, Stellar consensus protocol, which is using a form of distributed proof of work. I can't remember what it was called. Um, so this is all I could collect so far about the platforms. So again, guys, if you guys have any questions, contact me via my contact details at secondary.com, and I'll try to um, you know return back your queries or questions as soon as I can. So now that we have all these platforms, uh, somebody calls their token cryptocurrency, somebody calls their token utility token. It becomes very difficult. Like in my eyes, everything that is being issued on any of these platforms is a token. I would not call it a cryptocurrency, because a currency is something that a government issues, and it has some checks and balances in it. No matter what you think of the government and the central bank and the um, central reserve or whoever, that they're printing money or whatever, but it is a mechanism which is working, and it is working fine so far. Um, uh, these tokens have been created to explore that very idea. So um, so let's leave it at that. So tokens can be of specific purpose. So some people call Bitcoin, Litecoin, they're tokens for store of value. In my eyes, store of value again is something where you can store the value, and it's pretty stable. But the way that all the tokens are going these days, it's that you know Bitcoin can move up or down in a day, pretty much. So you never know what's your buying power with the Bitcoin or any of these so-called cryptocurrencies. Then to support each of the platforms that we discussed in the previous slide, they could have utility tokens, so that if you wanted to use a certain platform, you would need to buy certain tokens um, to get on board on the platform and use that platform. Some of the examples are Ether on the Ethereum platform and Filecoin. Um, then, as people got more creative, they thought about using tokenized securities. So they would tokenize a security, and they would pretty much issue a token on that particular security. And the other kind are the rewards. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but there's a Facebook like platform called Steemit, where you can do posts and you would get Steam tokens when people like your post, and they provide comments and all that kind of stuff. And Steam's doing pretty good these days. So in my eyes, they're all tokens. I would never call any of these things cryptocurrencies. Um, so now coming along to the next item, when you want to issue an ICO, and I'm talking from the perspective of Ethereum, uh, what do you want to consider? So some of the things you could consider are, first thing is, first things first, you would have to do is you'd have to create a smart contract. So you'd have to think of the name of the token initials, the exchange rate this token is in reference to Ether, number of tokens to be issued, and uh, and the contract security framework. How do you want to secure this contract? So it's basically a bunch of code where you predetermine all these things, and um, and the other things that you would have to consider is, before you can write the contract, is um, how many tokens you're going to issue, and of the tokens created, how many tokens are going to be available to the team who's issuing the ICO versus the team versus the public. What is the value of the token? Um, will the value of the token remain the same throughout the ICO, or it's going to change as more people get onboarded? Usually, the trend is you would start um, at a discounted price, and as you fill your you reach your milestones, you would increase the price of the ICO. Um, how is the registration going to happen for the ICO? The wallet address, usernames, and how are you going to be collecting people's information? Are you going to be doing How are you going to be doing the KYC, know your customer verifications? Um, um, how the tokens are going to get issued? Like, are you going to be sending them to the wallets, or what? And how long? What is the period of this ICO going to be? So this is some of the things that you could consider. Um, the next bit is about evaluating an ICO. So the previous one was about if you wanted yourself to issue an ICO, that's what you would consider. Now, as an investor, um, you want to invest into an ICO. So investing in an ICO is not any different than investing in anything else, right? So before you invest in anything, people always advise, be it stocks, be it real estate, be it whatever. If it is an investment, the goal is that you are going to put in X number of dollars, and you're going to get X plus dollars out of it. So you want to make money out of it. So because it's your hard-earned money, you always have to make sure that no matter what somebody says, you have to protect yourself from all kinds of scammers and all kinds of people that are out there. So because the ICO is one of the new things, I thought I put a list together as to, in my eyes, what I see as that one should look at before you want to invest in the ICO. Um, Agreed that the ICOs are doing pretty good. You invest now, you get 100%, 1,000%, 12,000% increase. But it all comes with a lot of risk. So some of the things you could do is, what is this token trying to achieve? You know, is this a valid cause? Is it just an organization with a blockchain name on it, and they got no product or substance to offer? Um, how many tokens are being issued, and how many are being held by the issuer? Who is part of this ICO issuance team? If it makes sense for people who are in this business, who are in crypto, or techies who are part of this organization. If not a lot of people are you've heard before, then take it with a grain of salt. Just make sure that um, you are familiar with the people, even if the people are not that famous and you know them personally, you could, and you trust them, by all means go and do that. For developers and programmers, one of the things you can look at, and if even if you're not, GitHub is something that where you can go and um, see how active these people have been in developing their code. So always make sure that you find the link to their GitHub page, or whatever tool they're using for their code, as a code repository, um, and see how many people are contributing to it, how active they are, um, and what percentage are active. You could have 100 people listed, only 5 are active, which is not a good sign. And how often are the changes being committed? Some of the other things is, how long does the ICO run for? What does the ICO issuer plan to do with the capital raised? So this is the key, and this is where the um, DA ICO I spoke about earlier comes into play, where if it is all determined before the ICO is issued, then and people know what are the milestones that this organization gets the funds released, then um, it's then the risk is minimized, right? But if this organization gets hold of the money right away as the ice money comes in, then who knows, they could just pretty much, once the money is raised, they could close shop, disappear, and done, right? Because whenever an ICO is issued, it's not like a security that you're getting a stake in the company or a share in the company, right? It clearly says that you might not get your money back, and there's no protection for you because there's no SEC involved, or whatever the equivalent is, and the well, there's upside, there's a lot of downside as well to this whole thing. The other areas you could look at is how active these guys are on the social media. Um, um, Go to Reddit. And one of the other good websites is Smith and Crown. Find out what they're saying about this ICO. Um, and if this ICO has been issued, check coincap.io for its details. Um, a lot of people go um, with the market cap of a typical crypto, which is really misleading in terms of showing the health of that crypto. So let's say a token is issued, and somebody's issues these tokens, and let's say they're issuing 100,000 tokens, and somehow they have convinced a bunch of the friends to buy this token at $1. So right away, because they've convinced their friends, or just one friend bought this token for $1, just merely just one person buying this token makes the market cap of this token as $100,000. So imagine if these guys are issuing a million tokens or 10 million or 20 million tokens, the market cap is going to be that many. So it's quite misleading. So do your homework when evaluating an ICO. I think, in my eyes, the key would be looking at how many tokens are out there at this point of time that are being actively traded. That would be one of the key things, and also, how are these guys going to um, be able to contribute um, in terms of technology or whatever changes they want to introduce. So with that, folks, thank you very much for your time. We spent a good half an hour talking about this. Um, I know I might have gone into some certain level of details on certain things and not in others. Um, if you have any questions, do drop me a line by reaching out to me on my website, secondwide.com, and all my contact details are there. And if you like the content, please share in your network and give me the thumbs up on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye bye.